Okay, hi YouTube. My name is Erin and I am the millennial teacher. If you see my face getting red, it might be because I'm a little bit nervous because I've never done this before. But I wanted to do the first year in teaching tag, so I'm just going to get right into it. I saw this from Teach Like a Girl and I love her channel. Before I start with the questions, let me give a little bit of background with my first year teaching experience. I was at a Montessori charter school in New England, and I did not have my own classroom. I was co-teaching, and my official title was assistant teacher because I am not Montessori trained. I was basically teaching small group lessons and working, essentially co-teaching, pretty equal share. The only thing was I wasn't teaching lessons with the Montessori materials. That was really the biggest difference between the lead teacher and the assistant teacher. So let's get right into these questions. So the first question is, what was your worst moment in your first year of teaching? I have to say my worst moment was definitely in probably around December. I can't remember the exact date, but it was in December, and I was really just down on myself for the fact that I was labeled assistant teacher. I didn't have my own classroom. I was starting to get into the Instagram scene and the teacher Instagram scene, and I was really excited about all the things I was seeing, and I felt like I couldn't do all those things just because I didn't have my own classroom. Now, that was not true. I could try new things, I could do things, and I had the support of someone else in the room with me, which was really a benefit that I kind of overlooked. But I would definitely say my worst moment was in December. I kind of had a breaking point where I just felt so frustrated that I didn't have what looked like to be as good of a situation as what other people had their first year teaching. I didn't feel like I was a real teacher because I didn't have my own classroom, when that was not the case at all. Um, Question number 2. What was your best moment in your first year? I have to say my best moment in my first year was definitely with my small reading groups. So with the Montessori school, um, my particular school had decided to put into place a separate reading curriculum to supplement the language works that the Montessori curriculum offered. So we were using, I want to say it was Pearson's Good Habits Great Readers program, and it entailed you taking kids in small groups, basically small group guided reading lessons. And I had all the first graders in our classroom. So if you don't know, Montessori has multi-age classrooms, and I was in a lower elementary classroom, so I had grades first, second, and third grade all together in one room. There were 8 first graders, 8 second graders, and 8 third graders. My responsibility as an assistant teacher was to teach small group guided reading. I also taught small group writing instruction, and I would supplement any of the Montessori lessons with additional small focus, kind of almost like tutoring, really small group, really individualized. If students had a question about something or they were struggling with a specific topic, I would find a way to help them and supplement that Montessori hands-on material in a way that made sense. So my best moment in student teaching was definitely those guided reading group times. I had never worked with first grade. My practicum and student teaching experiences were with third and fifth grade. So when I was with little first graders, I was terrified that I was going to mess up, that I was going to make it so that they would never be able to read for their whole life. Like I was going to ruin them and put them onto a path of like illiteracy. Um, so I was really nervous, and it actually ended up being so much fun. I loved seeing them blossom, going from reading these little tiny books with sight words to, which were still hard at the beginning of the year, to going on to reading short picture books, and some of my groups even went on to reading short chapter books. It was so much fun to watch them grow and learn, and the little first graders are so cute. Like when they say I love you, and then like they'll hold your hand if you're walking in line, and sometimes they'll accidentally let it slip and call you mom, and it's pretty stinking cute. So I would definitely say my best moment was with my guided reading group. I know, long-winded answer. I'm sorry. So question number 3. What is your biggest regret from your first year? I think my biggest regret goes back to my answer to question number 1. I felt super down on myself for not having my own classroom, and I feel like I took a lot of that out on my ability to communicate. Meaning, I was really feeling down on myself, and I got into a really dark, kind of depressed state, and I wasn't communicating to the best of my abilities with my coworkers, and our classroom community kind of struggled because of that, and I so am not proud of it, but I was not perfect. Nobody is perfect, and I think it was also really hard to just kind of let that go and realize that, yeah, that was kind of like not a good place that I was in, but I could move on from it and I could grow from it. And my biggest regret was probably how long it took me to accept that. Question, getting deep here. Question number 4. What is something you wish you knew before you started teaching? Okay, this is really easy for me to answer because I have kind of alluded to it. I wish I knew how hard it was to get a job as a teacher. I know that there are certain cities or states where they are so in need of teachers and qualified educators. Where I'm from is not one of those places. I applied to, it's a really small state with um, like really small towns. So there's probably one school per town, and then the schools on top of that take really great care of the teachers that they have, which is fantastic for teachers that already have a job. But for teachers that are trying to get a job, no one wants to leave unless they're retiring. So you can't get a job unless someone retires. All likelihood, there's not that many people retiring at once. So I applied to almost every single classroom teaching job that was posted in the state, and I got 2 calls back, and I didn't get either of those jobs to get my own classroom. And I think I just didn't know how competitive it was. I didn't know how much you needed to know someone in all the schools, and how your student teaching, where you student taught, could be a big deciding factor on whether or not you got a job. Because if you were student teaching and you did a really great job and they had an opening, you could get a job. Like, obviously you had to be qualified and reliable and all that stuff, but if you did a good job with your student teaching there, you could almost automatically get a job and have your own classroom. But unless you were teaching at a school where those were your circumstances, that wasn't really the case. You had to have connections with the people in the school. The last question: what advice would you give to a first year teacher? My advice that I would give to a first year teacher: do not compare your journey to anybody else's. And when I say your journey, I'm not trying to be all like, I just mean like where you start in your career does not have to mean your own classroom. Don't feel like that. Please don't feel like that, and still feel like you are a real teacher, even if you don't have your own classroom or the title that you wanted or whatever. Use that time, get experience, become better at what you do and what you're passionate about, and you'll get there eventually. You'll get what you want eventually. But I think I had a big misconception about, if I don't have my own classroom, I can't really call myself a teacher. And I felt kind of like a phony for calling myself a teacher for a long time. And that wasn't the case. I was a real teacher. I was working with kids, and I was helping make their lives better and helping them learn. And that is all you need to do. That's all you need to do to be considered a teacher. You don't need a room, you don't need a title. You just need to be working to make kids' lives better and helping them learn about the world. That's all you need to be doing. So, that was all the questions. Those were all the questions from the first year teaching tag. If anybody wants to do this tag, totally jump on it. I am a young teacher. I'm going into my second year, so I love to hear about other people's experiences and be able to connect and communicate about those things. So, thanks, YouTube.